G'day guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Yarning with Aussie Legends. This week's with Jason Akermanis, the ex-AFL player who played over 300 games for the Brisbane Lions and the Western Bulldogs, 3 Premierships with the Lions, Brownlow medal, absolute legend of a player, but an absolute legend of a bloke as well. Really humble and willing to welcome me into his home to sit down and have this yarn. So hopefully you guys can sit back and enjoy getting to see what he's really like and hear some awesome insight into his career and his coaching that he did post playing in the AFL. So yeah, sit back and enjoy, guys. Thanks. Firstly, I'm fascinated by your career, but mostly fascinated by what made you so good. There's no denying that, one of the best players ever. So can you tell us a bit about where you grew up? And so from what I understand, based on Open Season, your book, that your mum had a bit of a struggle with the brain. So you were growing up, must have been pretty tough. And
no, well, she didn't have any problems until much, obviously, before she died. But no, we were born in Mildura, which is west Victoria. It's pretty nice, pretty hot kind of place. But it's near a desert, so it's it's pretty cold in the winters. But mum was concerned about me. She took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, "You really should get him into sport." So she was able to get me down as soon as she could, down the Aussie rules side. I think she was going out with one of the players, I think, by this stage at the South Mildura Foot Cup. So that's how I started, and that's my first coach said you should kick both feet and use both hands. So and never having a dad, that was really that's what I thought were my dads. Anyway, they acted. They all my coaches were like that. They were father figures. So anyway, whatever they said, I listened to. So that's what I would do, and I knew I was onto something, because through juniors, no kid could kick hardly with one foot. And here I was kicking, probably about maybe 11 or 12 could kick 50 metres both feet. So it was like, most people.
So do you reckon that was just from sheer practice or good technical advice, or?
No, just practice. Yeah, and I was always tinkering. I know how to. I can teach kicking now, which is the most important skill in footy. So I've taught the kids how to do it, but it's still not easy. You've got to experiment. But over time I got very good. But I'd always be out practicing. I'd go down the road. I'd practice at rugby league fields, because there was no Aussie rules fields. Once we moved to Brisbane when I was about 8, so that was pretty cool. But Brisbane didn't have the same standard, even as a little town like Mildura, my mum thought. So she made sure I played up in the higher grades to get more competition, because I was just sort of dominating my own grade. Yeah. So that was sort of how it all started.
Yeah, righto. And so obviously at the time you've got school. How did you go as a student?
Well, I never failed, but I never really did much work either. So I wasn't overly interested in school. School was a complete waste of time, really. Except I learned to write and read and could do,
Well, you ended up in media and doing the writing and reading and stuff.
Yeah. You wouldn't have thought I'd written 2 books, but I like radio when I did that. I like TV, but that's more about just being able to talk. Yeah. But a lot of people that have single mums, they're very good speakers for some reason. Not having a dad around, but anyway, no, it was.
Did you feel like you had to speak up on behalf of the family kind of setup or anything like that?
No, I was too. I was the eldest of me and my brother, but I never felt any needing to, do much until I got much bigger and older and stronger. But I really just focused on footy pretty much the whole time. I really had not much else to really want to do. I played lots of sports, but I didn't. Footy was easily the
most exciting.
I was good at it, so and I was making state teams, and I wasn't really making state teams on any other sport. I was close with athletics, but not fast enough.
So is it long distance you were doing in the athletics, or short?
No, just short distance. Yeah, I was really good over 100 and 200, but I wasn't quite good enough to get in state teams. And then I was actually probably best over 400.
Okay.
I got to some state finals, which was good. So, but no, footy was the one for me. I really like basketball, but you know, we just didn't have that much money. So in the end, footy was about all my mum could afford. It was tough just to get boots or a ball. I never had any balls. I used to have to get those plastic balls. So here I was practicing with plastic balls all the time, and I put them out in the sun so they heat up, so they get air in them. Didn't even have a pump, so
righto.
So that's what I do in the backyard, and trying to kick those balls made me actually a better kick, because you've got to kick them properly. If you're a little bit off,
and you can probably feel it with, like, as you drop it, you notice it more probably.
Yeah, and they're not as heavy. They're quite light. They're plastic balls.
So they move in the wind and everything.
Oh, it's horrible.
But if you start with crappy equipment, you learn to become a master pretty quickly.
Yeah, it did help a lot.
Yeah.
It did help a lot.
So, with did you like do casual work or anything as well as a teenager?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I just did a bit where I'd like clean the butcher and get a couple of bucks doing that on a couple of days a week. I'd alternate between 2 or 3 days a week. When I was about 14, got about 22 bucks. I remember I bought 22 bucks worth of crunchies after my first paycheck, so that was pretty cool. It wasn't really too much. My mum was keen on me to work more, but I sort of said, yeah, that'll be good. But by the time I turned 16, 17, 18, I was still at high school and I started playing in the AFL. So it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I did have other jobs. I did do other jobs, but by the time it was sort of 99, it was pretty much everyone was professional or starting to be. When I started, there was only one player who was professional, which means he worked full time playing footy, and then within 4 or 5 years, it was everyone really.
So, like, how did it come about when you're getting picked? Was it like you were just playing the local side and someone says, "Hey, this guy's here to watch you," or like how does someone actually get drafted? I suppose in that.
In that era.
Well, just the process of being discovered.
Yeah, well, they obviously knew about me. They watched the under-16s national carnivals, and then by the time you get to, it's actually under-17s, not like it is now. I think it's under-18s. But by the time I got to the under-17s national carnival, I played in it twice. So I played as a 16-year-old, so they saw me then. And after that particular, we played in Adelaide. So after that carnival, when I was 16, they invited me to training with the Bears. So I sort of spent the whole pre-season with the group playing, and not played a couple of games at the start of pre-season, but it was mainly just training. So I got to know the guys, but they really were obviously looking at me. And then after the second year, when I went to the national carnival, I got like all Australian, so I was in the best team in the carnival, playing well. I played the whole year in senior footy in a tough competition called the QAFL back then for Maine. So, even as a 16-year-old, I was still playing in reserves then. And then once I went and played with men, you're sort of 17 playing against men. It's a good way to learn, but I'm already sort of up to their standard by now. So,
So go on.
Yeah, no, well, anyway, the reality was they could pick local kids.
Yeah.
They don't do it now, but it was the same as academy kids, really. But, Vossi and myself, Clark Keating and a few other guys you've probably never heard of, they were able to get access to us. So, like, Sydney Swans got Leo Barry and bunch of that. So, we're obviously from the state and they were allowed first pick of us, and that meant that we didn't have to go in the draft. So in the end, I didn't even have to go in the draft.
Yeah, righto.
I knew where I was going.
Yeah, sweet. So, how did coming in as I'm assuming you're a pretty small fella back then as well. Like, how did you beat your opponents? How did you become the best in your age or whatever? When what assets did you have to utilise to? Obviously, you just said your speed, but was you tackling pressure after game if you're not, the biggest bloke around? Like, what was it?
No, not really. No, my tackling didn't really come on until many years later. But I was obviously could win my own ball and had great skills. So so in general play, I was able to hit targets. Even in the seniors, I played at sort of back pocket. So but when I went to the AFL, I was sort of half forward. But I played every position on the ground. So it was sort of it was my thing really. I knew what I was doing except
Yeah.
for ruck. I actually played in the ruck a few times, but I could take marks. I could take the ball in the lead,
Yeah.
or I can win my own balls. So you don't necessarily have to be. I wasn't a very good tackler, but then I did get very good later. But I was just able to get the ball, and my teammates wanted me to have the ball
Yeah.
because I'd be able to use it good or better than most of my teammates. So that's how I got. That's why I was good.
And so when it starts, do you get offered good coin? Like you were saying, it wasn't totally professional setup then. Like, how do you kind of support yourself when you've got a dream that's right at your doorstep? Whereas now, players are getting good money as soon as they walk in.
Yeah, well, it wasn't terrible when I started, but I lived at home, so I didn't really have any overheads. And I was in year 12 at Nudgee College, which I was on a scholarship for athletics. So, the school was paid for, which was great. My mum couldn't afford us to go there at all. She was only a typist, so she didn't have much wage. And then, so they had minimum wages back then, which every kid got, which was $7,500 and $750 a game. So, I'd played 17 games in my first year, which was good, and I was able to earn I had a few bonuses and a few other things. So I was sort of earning about $22,000, which is not big in today's money, but back then it was all right.
Yeah, well, I can live off that on the road for the year.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And then, then breaking through, you had, who was your first coach at the Bears and that?
Well, my first coach was Robert Walls. He only had 1 year with Robert. That was 1995, and then he left. So that was good. We made the finals, first time ever. It was the very first time the Bears made the finals, and we played great. I mean, I think we won the last 7 out of 8, and back then it was first versus 8th, second versus 7th, and it was the old system. And we played, we finished scraped in 8th, so we played the top side, which is Carlton. We just lost. No one got within 60 points of Carlton after that. They dominated one. They only lost 2 games of the year and won the flag. They were a really good team. So we were the only team that really went close. Had we had the old system where you played 5th, I have no doubt we would have gone a long way.
Yeah,
we just played really good.
So what sort of things did Robert Walls, what was his coaching style? What was his foundational kind of team rules, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, Robert Walls, though, is really fanatical on the hard things. Like, he loved blokes going back with the flight and all this kind of stuff. Which is ironic because if you saw Wallsy play, he was one of the softest players of all time.
Yeah, right.
And ducked his head and all that kind of stuff. It's funny how coaches often are what they aren't, like in real life. Lee was fanatical about diet and skin folds when, Lee was never into diets or skin folds. He was eating whatever he wanted. So, and they're all like that.
Yeah.
They all really do focus in on what their negatives are. But, that was Wolsey. He was certainly, he had his way of toughening you up, whether you liked it or not. Now you couldn't do what he did because you'd be charged with abuse and all that
just
kind
political
of stuff.
correctness.
You couldn't train the way we did back then, but it was pretty brutal, and he was pretty. I think he enjoyed it, but it was really tough.
Yeah, so
mentally, it was really tough.
Yeah, okay. So was he a tactical coach, or was he mostly just here's the stock standard basic game plan?
No, he was one of the good tacticians. Although, tactics aren't much if you can't win the ball and stuff. But his tactics, he knew who to shut down. I mean, he was the very first one that came up with the zone defence and zones for kick-outs.
What was that? That old thing, like where you huddle and then you
all that stuff. Yeah, he came up with that. So he was certainly, he invented some very good applications to the game. His tactics in footy, like there are tactics and lots of them. Footy's can be very complex, but he was not over the top. He was a school teacher, so by trade before. So he had a way of teaching, but he's also old school. You had to earn your respect. You couldn't just come in and getting a game. Sometimes he'd sort of make it tough for you and mentally kind of really be negative on you and see if you could take it. So people that survived Wolsey's era credit that for that toughness. You couldn't have him for more than a year or two because he was just too much. But the blokes that had him, like myself, for a year, and the other guys who were there for 3 or 4 years, they appreciated it in the end because I think those flags wouldn't happen if those particular players weren't really tough mentally.
Yeah, okay. And then so Wolsey goes at the end of 95, and then who comes in after him?
John Northey. We've got John Northey, and we had John for 3 years. Nearly 3 years. So the first year was really good. We finished third. We played in a prelim final. So in my first 2 years, we played one final, then two finals. Finished third. Things are going great. We didn't have Wolsey's kind of mental
toughness,
you know. Well, no, we had Wolsey's mental toughness, but we didn't have him. He almost stops you from having success too, and we were able to be free and play a very good brand of footy, and that worked great. John Northey, of course, that's what happens. You get that first year, you have half of the old coach, half of the new coach, but then the next year you have pretty much all the new coach. So by the second year, after being pretty good, high expectations, we just scraped in, finished 8th.
Yeah.
And then in his third year, I mean, there were rumblings after the first year that maybe he wasn't that good. But by the third year, it was pretty obvious he wasn't the coach that they thought he was. Very much us against them. Not really a great tactician. In fact, he's an awful tactician, because we'd have one game plan before all week, one game plan. Come quarter time, it's often another game plan. Which that's why players ended up not liking and not playing well, because it was too confusing. So with about 8 games to go, I reckon we actually finished last that particular year. So 1998 it was. So we'd gone 3rd, 8th, last. So that was the end of him. One of our assistant coaches at the time, and one of the great players, Roger Merritt, took over for the 8 games.
Yeah.
I know he was keen on the job. And we were very fortunate at that stage. We got Rob, thanks to a few guys, Andrew Island and a few other guys. They asked Lee Matthews, and he said no about 3 times apparently. But eventually he looked at the list and said, "Oh, it's not too bad."
Yep.
And so we got Lee Matthews.
Yeah, cool. And then the rest is history, eh?
Yeah, well, we weren't immediately winning grand finals, but that first year, 99, we finished 3rd, made a prelim, pretty close. Just lost North Melbourne, to North Melbourne. They won that year. Essendon should have won it, but they didn't quite get in. They got beaten in that prelim final, and then the next year Essendon won. We finished 5th that year, and then we played Essendon in 2001. But that back half of the year, we'd won 16 games straight.
Yeah, right. Holy dilly.
By 60 points. So we were dominant then, and then I think we nearly set an AFL. I think we did set an AFL record for the next year. We won a bunch of games, 20 something in a row, and then. We had a great year. It's probably our best year to year, and then we got in a grand final against Collingwood. So us and Collingwood finished last in 1998 and 1999. So within 2 and 3 years, both those sides have gone from last to
top of the ladder. Yeah.
Yeah. So it worked. Obviously, Michael Malthouse was the coach, and we won on the day just in the end. We had a few injuries. I got injured early in the game, and I ended up kicking the goal that sort of won us the game or allowed us to win the game. But it was a pretty tough game, really wet game.
Yeah.
So they were able to get their big bodies into play.
And Nathan Buckley wins the medal there. It's not often you see a losing team man win it.
Yeah, like he played well, but that last 10 minutes, I thought Michael Voss was fantastic. Clark Keating had a great game. There's lots of guys that, I think he was pretty stiff. And back then they did the voting, I don't know why, 10 minutes before the finish of the game, and the last 10 minutes is where Vossi just...
It was when the game was won, really. It was such a close
saved
game.
us. So, yeah, I think they changed the rules after that. You had to vote after the game was finished, but it was, pretty crap back then, so Vossi kind of missed out. But anyway, Nathan played well, and I'm sure he'd rather Premiership
of course.
than Norm Smith, and he still hasn't got one. I mean, he got one
as
an
a
assistant
coach,
but not as a senior coach, so he's a bit hard done by. But he left Brisbane Bears and wanted to go to Collingwood to win premierships too. So he made that choice, and at that stage you probably argue that was the right choice, because it didn't look very not positive where we were, but he left 95. 94. I actually came at the end of 94, but I'd trained with him and we got on great. So you make those decisions, and it hasn't worked out just yet, but he's been a Collingwood person ever since, and it's made him a multi-millionaire, so I'm sure he doesn't care.
Well, that's it. So in that era as well, about 2000, 2001, you started changing your hairstyle.
99 that was.
Yeah, what was the go with that?
Well, one day
Because obviously it became iconic, really.
Yeah, one day I'm sitting there and I'm watching this our game, and I'm noticing this guy has got this blonde hair. Guy by the name of Adam Huskus. Anyway, he would dye his hair different colours all the time, so he didn't really have blonde hair that much. But anyway, right before round one, so on the week of, so I hadn't played in the pre-season with it. I decided to get it done. I was a bit worried because I didn't think the coach would like it, but the coach came over and Lee, and he said, you know, he put his arm around me. He said, mate, your hair looks great. It looks just like mine, because he was going grey.
Yeah.
So it was sort of blonde and grey anyway, and that was it. I had blonde hair ever since when I played. Don't have it now, but when I did then. So
Yeah.
And then the sort of the facial hair grew later.
Yeah.
But, and I would dye that, but it was true. I mean, it was easy to see me and my family and everyone that watched the game. It was easy to find me in the screen, and that's the whole point. I have no doubt that it helped me get many votes in the Brownlow. Ended up winning one, so you know.
Yeah, I have a theory that if you're a junior and you're on the cusp, you just need to wear like a pink ribbon or something around your headgear or whatever it might be, and you might stand out a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was doing that in juniors. So in juniors, I'd wear like a white undershirt, or I'd wear. I remember we used to have these.
Just something to stand out.
Yeah, we had these. They were actually.
The equivalent of skins or something.
Yeah, the skins, but back then they never had skins. It was quite thick. It was like a wetsuit sort of, but it was bright orange.
Right.
And I would wear them, and you know, anything to sort of stand out. And in the end, it worked great. Not that I needed to, because I was playing pretty good, but.
But if they're thinking, who should get the 3 votes between that guy, he was pretty good. He just popped into the head.
Yeah, I won the under-12s medal when I was a kid, so you know. It worked, and so I was kind of doing those things anyway. But you know, the blonde hair was certainly one of the better ideas. Back when I was a young kid, it was just white shirts and fluoro orange sort of undergarments. But yeah.
Yeah, and then you I was watching the 2001 Brownlow presentation, and you were wearing glasses, so I didn't know you had difficulty viewing. Was it reading, or was it?
No. I had a test at the club actually, and they said, "Oh, you got a bit of astigmatism, which just means your eyes start going flat." But
you could did you wear like contacts or anything?
I wore contacts for a bit, but they were very they were very annoying, because in the Brisbane heat, you know, if you squirted water, it would run down in your eyes, and then it would move the contacts, and I couldn't see. So what ended up happening, lucky at the time. These in the States, they invented this particular. It's a proper contact, but you only wear it when you sleep. And what that does is it remolds your eye, so you get your shape back in your eye, because that's the problem. And so I'd wear it when I'd go to sleep and wake up and take them out, and it would correct the eye. So I still use them today, and I don't need glasses unless I forget, which I've done a couple of times, probably 3 times in 25 years. But you know, forget to put the contacts in. But I got 28/28 vision in the end. So when I got them fixed, the guy that did it, he said, "Geez, you must have had really good sight when you were a kid, because you know that's you're literally, it's the second best the human eye ever gets. 30/30, I think, is the top vision." So
yeah, right.
It got me back to 28/28, and you know it works. I can see great. So once that happened, I was fine. You know. I could read the play a bit more. It was hard to see down the other end, but yeah. That particular night, I don't even know if I needed them, but I wore them anyway. But it's just another bit of fun. Yeah,
and so when you win the Brownlow, kind of, obviously for someone like me, you don't win an award every day, but let alone that sort of prestigious award. What goes through your mind when your last few votes are coming on? Because obviously everyone wants to win it, but everyone's got cameras on them, and you want to be careful these days at least. But we all love the guy that's kind of giving himself the fist pump, or what was going through your head?
Yeah, we couldn't drink usually, you know, pretty much every other year, or any years. I went to the Brownlow, I think, once before. I'd actually scored the most votes, so that was 99. That's when I started with Lee and the blonde hair. So won the best and fairest that year. So
you scored the most votes, but
with the club, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
With the club, and then when I won the Brownlow, it was sort of getting pretty close at the end. They interviewed me at halfway, I remember, and I was pretty relaxed because I had a really good first half of the year. The second half wasn't as good, but the games I played well, I got 3 votes, and I got a lot of 3 voters. So I ended up just winning, and Andrew McLeod, who had a fantastic year, was a bit stiff. There's a couple of games that he didn't get votes he probably should have. But,
Yeah.
that's the Brownlow. It works for you when it works against you. You just need one of those years, and it worked for me. I played great, though. It wasn't like I didn't deserve it. I stood out, and we won the flag. And
Do you reckon that was your best year playing, or do you reckon you've had better years, but that one was just the year where you might have been the best in the competition, if that makes sense?
yeah, it was. I don't think. 2004 I had a great year.
Yeah.
I don't know how I didn't get All Australian. And 2005 I was best and fairest. 2009 I don't know how I didn't get All Australian 2005, but we sort of dropped off a bit. I think I might have got in the All Australian 2004. Had a great year in 2009 as well. Should have been an All Australian leading goal kicker. So you can be. I think though 2001 that first half was certainly my best footy, but.
Just how do you define your best footy? As in just clean, or just better statistics in terms of goals, touches?
Just getting lots of touches, playing the midfield, kicking goals, and having lots of the footy generally tells you that you're doing a lot of things right, especially over a big year. I think 2005, I think were my best numbers, but 2005 I had the best game I ever played as well. So
that Geelong wet game.
Geelong game. So there wasn't like. I was playing in the year. I played lots of great games. I played a game against the Bulldogs in 2004. I had a really the hammy wasn't going real good. I'd go off. They'd come back. I'd go back on, and we'd bolt away. I kicked 4 of the best goals you'll ever see, and 2 of them were from the ball travelled 75 metres left foot. So just
right.
2 of the best goals.
How do you get the distance then?
Just practice.
Yeah, but do you change what do you change in your technique?
You can sort of, you need a little bit more room. You can't quite kick it like a straight, as in a straight leg action. You kind of have it just a little bit, sort of like not around the corner kick, but just a little bit where you give it a little bit more room to get your legs through. I didn't have long legs, but I certainly could generate enough power, and it's really just connection. And that particular day, I just, flushed them as well. I could kick that far both legs, but very rarely did I do it because I'd probably kick it shorter to someone else.
We're in a bit of
it's a low percentage, but that day they went over the fence. So
they're right.
Very, very good kicks.
Yeah, cool. Because I have got the Brisbane Lions. What's it called? The package, the 3-year DVDs and that. So I've spent plenty of times watching those over and over.
Yes.
So then 2002 comes around, and was it? Do you just keep the same game plan? Do you keep the same sort of? Do you just go, all right, we did it last year, let's just do it again? Or?
Yeah. There was no. We were not. We played good momentum footy. Sides knew what we were doing, but we didn't care because
that much better.
We could play. We knew how to play A-game plan better than anyone could stop it, so it didn't really matter. So with the talent we had, we didn't need to change it up that much. Occasionally we'd slow the ball, or we might tag someone and expose them, but there wasn't really much need. Most sides, when we went to play, 99% of what we did was just worry about what we're doing, and the opposition will try and do this, so be ready for that, and you
had a few trades happen in that period. Do you reckon that kind of boosted, or was that just a matter of just the natural movements of players in the time frame?
Yeah, I don't think I feel like the reason Hawthorn were able to win in the next era was because free agency was in. We couldn't really have free agency back then. It was very hard to move clubs, so you sort of were pretty restrictive. From 99 when we come last to 2001, the only 2 players I can remember being really important were Mal Michael coming from Collingwood.
Yep.
He was a Queensland guy. I grew up with Mal playing in all the state teams. He was a fantastic athlete. And then a guy called Martin Pike.
Yep.
He was a full-time. At that stage he won a flag. He was a bit of a rough, a bit of a roughie, but he was very disciplined. He was a good player. Just crazy on the drink. I think we got Desi Headland maybe.
Or you picked him up in the draft.
Yeah, we picked him up. He was number 1 draft pick. So.
And you got what's that guy who came from Essendon? He had the black hair. Blake Carousella?
Oh yeah, picked up Blake later. Yeah, he was able to fit in. He won a flag. So yeah, it was. But he wasn't a guy that was. He made us better, but we didn't. If he wasn't there, I think we would have been fine as well. But he's very accomplished player, and he did his part. That's all we cared about. He didn't. he probably didn't dominate like he did in Essendon games here and there, but you know he was
just fitted in though and did the role.
That's all
After all, it is a team sport anyway. And then 2003 comes around, and obviously there's multiple Brownlow medalists. There's a bit of an iconic year, as like third in a row. How do you kind of keep all that momentum going in what turned out to be a pretty interesting year, just as far as AFL history is concerned?
Yeah, looking a bit shaky, I think. We lost the first final. We're in the top four, thankfully, so you get double chance, but we lost the first final against Collingwood. And then we went back home, and then we flogged whoever we played, Adelaide or someone. And then we went into a prelim at home and flogged them, and then went to the grand final. And actually, no, that's not right. We went to Sydney and played them, so we went on the opposite side of the draw. And Sydney were coming hard, and at the 3/4 time huddle, I didn't think we didn't say much. People talk about what Lee said. I don't think it was that motivating or anything, but do
you even remember quarter time speeches at all?
No, I just remember thinking, geez, they just kicked the last couple of goals and momentum was going their way, and I thought to ourselves, this was looking down the barrel, wasn't looking good, and Sydney really had that chance, obviously, to go into a grand final, and they just got stage fright. We didn't play necessarily any better, but we just kept doing what we know works. We'd been there and done that. We knew what we could do, and that's what we did, and we ended up. I had a huge last quarter myself, 8 touches or something, kicked a couple of goals. So it got us. Everyone just kind of just played okay. Really, it wasn't anything too special, but they just dropped right away. Anyway, so we won that, and then we're coming up against Collingwood the second year. They were a different team. They had a lot of young guys, so we were worried about their pace. And then once the game started, they just made a couple of errors, and
you just flogged them.
And then, we just capitalised early, and it just looked like they just had nothing to come back. So it was, and probably because they had a bunch of inexperienced players as well. That hurt
just
them.
like stage fright as well.
Yeah, I think so. So for us, it was
business as
pretty
usual.
Relaxing week. I remember we never thought it was too stressful. Even the next year when we were trying for 4, it wasn't too stressful. We certainly got the next year we were victims of.
You got shafted with the fixturing or something.
Got shafted big time. Andrew Demetrio was the only one who could have done that, and he did it. And I don't think anyone, if you ever want to see Lee Matthews mad, just talk about that. He hates Andrew, and so does every player that played in that group at that time. Yeah.
So what happened there? They said that you had to do, was it 2 games away or something when it should have been at the Gabba? Or?
Should have been at the Gabba, and Port Adelaide won there, so they were high, so they get to have theirs obviously at home in Adelaide, and we had to have a home game in Melbourne at the MCG, because back then they used to have had to be 1 game every week at the MCG, even though they could have said, "Oh, look, we'll give you one later and they can go back home." Anyway, they changed the rules after that, but they made sure. And the other thing they did was Port Adelaide played a full day ahead of us. So by the time...
So you got an extra day's rest.
By the time we'd gone down, come back to Brisbane, it was Sunday afternoon. They'd already had all the Saturday and all the Sunday.
Yeah. Before
we started our recovery. So, and I think if you look at the game, we were in front at half time, 3/4 time, it's pretty close, and then they just rolled away from us. And that is just us travelling for a second week, them that extra 2 days break, really, it all just worked.
Just piles up, and
they, in my opinion, we would have beaten them if we had the same opportunities to play at home. And we copped 3 injuries. We copped 3 injuries in Melbourne that we wouldn't have got at home. Brown ended up breaking he had a broken bone in his leg, a fracture. Fossey did his knee. That's not correct. Sorry, Lynchy did his quad, and then Craig McRae did his hamstring. So playing back in our house, that wouldn't happen. We might have got 1, but not 3. So taking those 3 into the grand final, you sort of have to, and that you can't take that many in.
Yeah. So what happened with all the fighting in that granny as well? What started that?
No, Lynchy. I mean, they were always going to try and get under our skin, but Lynchy's. Wakeland, that was really nothing. Lynchy just...
Well, he didn't connect.
Lynchy was upset because he had to go off, and he put anaesthetic in his quad and it didn't work. And
just the frustration of everything.
He knew it was his last game, so I think he was pretty emotionally distraught after that. So we kind of let it get the better of him. I know he would say that if he had his time again, he certainly didn't want to do that, but it happens.
And so, like, when you obviously drop off after that, what do you think changes? Obviously, there's a lot of retired players from there. What do you reckon, especially now as a coach, how do you kind of try and avoid drop-offs and stuff? Or is it just natural occurrence?
It's just, I think, 2005, for instance, I played a great year, came back really good shape and got another best and fairest, but the drop-off really, you lose experience, but you lose players playing in what there's physical prime, they've moved out of that, and the hunger and the passion. So you got the mental side of not really being as hungry, and then you've got the physical side of being beaten up, and then you've got all of that leaving, and then you've got a lot of young blokes who really just aren't quite up to the same standard. So you're replacing very, very good players, albeit over the hill, with younger players that really aren't the same standard. So you really, even with Sydney, I'd be surprised if Sydney really does make finals. They got a good culture and a good club, but eventually your talent is going to get shown up. They've been lucky enough to get away with it. Hawthorn rebuilt really quickly, but you can rebuild much quicker these days with free agency than you could in our time. You had to go through the draft really and start again and build them all the way back up. And if you stuffed up a couple of years, you're gone for
a decade almost.
A decade. So with Hawthorn, they cleaned out some high-priced players, which was very risky, but they brought in some good players, but you can see Geelong have done that as well, but they've mixed it this year with a lot of young, quicker players. And the guys that they've drafted have really come on, Kelly and these kind of guys. So, you got to be lucky as well, and they certainly, I'd be surprised if they weren't, in a grand final or they'll be in a prelim.
So I was actually thinking about the free agency thing in that era. I'm sure a lot of you guys would have been getting a lot of interest from other clubs and stuff. How does that all work? Did you get lots of clubs throwing you money, or were you guys on decent contracts that made you just go, no, I'm staying, or been 300 games obviously later on, but you've Brownlow 3 premierships that other clubs would have been circling for sure.
Yeah, I think what hurt me was I sort of had a couple of years, and then I'd re-sign for about sort of 4 years, but in that period I wasn't getting remunerated because I'd gone up and up because I'd become all Australian and then a really quality midfielder. So by the time they wanted to sort of redo my contract, and then I won a Brownlow, so 24, they really were concerned. But your stocks go up, which is good, and your pay's going to go up. But the problem with Brisbane, like all caps, is you're fitting everyone in there. And I know that in the end it got too much because we all had to take pay cuts and to keep everyone together in those last couple of years. So it wasn't really friendly for everyone, but it was worth it. I think the third year was worth it. And arguably, if Andrew Demetrio didn't rig the last one, we took pay cuts. I'm pretty sure it was 2004. We took the pay cuts. It would have worked fine.
So, well, back in that era, if you don't mind me asking, how much is sort of like a good wage there?
Well, I think the average wage is about 240, 250 at that stage. But in clubs you get like Vossi and maybe Leper and a few blokes. Vossi would have been up here somewhere, and Leper would have been here, and then there's only a few really high ones. I wasn't in the high category, even though probably business-wise sold more merchandise and made the club very profitable. So
what was the saying? You sold more sausage rolls or something?
Yeah, sold more hot dogs and cokes and stuff than anyone because everyone waited for the handstand. So, and then I was sort of mid-pack, but you get a bulk of your players are between 200 and maybe 350 at that stage. Now it's much higher. They're getting guys average wage well over 300. So guys, the bulk of the players are going to be between 250 and maybe 450. Where when I went to the Bulldogs, being on the 450, that's pretty much as high as a guy in my position and experience could get. I could have got more had I left the Lions into when I was 24, but I wouldn't have the premiership. So,
Yeah.
and it's just the way it worked out. I wouldn't change any of it. It's only money. It's not really. It's a shame in some ways because you can only earn it for so long. But you know, if you make the right choices and you played for 16 years like I did, you should have a house and plenty. You know, you had enough money. I think.
Well, if you're sensible with any wage, you can make do.
You should have set yourself up half decent. So, you know, you shouldn't really be broke when you retire. But you know, living in Melbourne probably wouldn't have been that possible, even though we were okay. Moving here was a big lifestyle change. There's no real need to be making huge money or anything like that. So, you know, had enough time to spend with the girls and stuff. But you know, not everyone can do that.
Yeah. So then, when the Bulldogs situation came about, did you what made you go to the Bulldogs?
Well, they just played their first final. They were going pretty good. They looked like they had a really good list. I was pretty happy with them. The other thing that probably just Essendon were keen as well, but I was suspicious with Essendon they were going to get rid of Kevin Sheeny, and they did within the next 12 months. And Essendon only had a 2-year deal, which I wasn't that interested in a 2-year deal because at 30 at the time, that could have not worked for me. So in the end, I took the 3-year deal with the Bulldogs. It was more money. It wasn't quite, in hindsight, I don't think there was really anyone else. I mean, I deserved to get well paid.
Yeah.
I deserved the help. And we played in 3 prelims. I didn't play in the last one, of course, because they'd sacked me by then. But, you know, it was the right decision. We were close. You know, Rodney was a pretty good coach. He's a lunatic, but, you know, the players were really talented. They were way more talented than Essendon.
Yeah.
So in the end, I mean, I think Geelong won in that era and the Saints were pretty good. So you couldn't really go there. But, you know, they had pretty strong lists. But if I had gone to Geelong, I would have won more premierships, but I certainly wouldn't have had
the coin or anything.
The money, yeah.
So did you guys have like managers and everything back then who were fighting your battles? And did you have any involvement as an individual?
I think after a while, I got rid of all my managers eventually because they take a lot of money. And I could do the same deals. I was just repeating the deals. It wasn't like you needed them. They set them up, which caused a bit of angst to them. But, you know, and
well, it's business as well.
Most managers are parasites. But I must admit, it is, if you get the right one, you can see in the AFL now, if you got the right company like TLA, which is Ned Kelly and Craig Kelly, these kind of guys, you know, they're pretty much, most of the coaches are with those guys, and you know, they get well looked after. So had I known that, maybe going with them earlier and being a bit smarter tactically, you could probably guarantee a bit more work in the AFL. We certainly could. But that's the way it is, you know. I was happy to do my own thing. I'm glad I did because I learned the skills that you need to negotiate. But I was happy to do my own thing in the end. But you make those decisions at the time, and if it works, great.
Sweet. So then, when you pick up your side gigs with like media and stuff, how does that kind of come about? Because I've always done that. When I was working my day job, I was doing photography on the weekend. How did that kind of come about? Were you just interested or bored with your spare time? Like, what led you kind of to pursue that?
Well, when I won a Brownlow, that was what changed, and then the opportunities to do radio, TV, and then, in TV I had my own show and then do a column. At that stage, you know, what people didn't realise is Lee was doing all the media, which is not really fair on Lee, but that's the way Lee wanted to control things, which is okay to a point, except, you know, we all get sick of seeing the one guy. So anyway, I enjoyed doing and talking about footy because it had a great side benefit of just us getting more airtime, which meant more people came to watch, and you know the club made more money, so it was good. At that stage, I remember, by a few years later, Vossi and Lepa and Lynchy were all on TV and had columns, so you could see that, you know, as I've done, you know, you set the trend, you try and help the public out, and you know, Lee was always, you know, trying to control what I was saying, and after a few weeks, he's like, I don't think this paper stuff's for you, and a few things like that. And eventually, I didn't listen. I thought, just keep at it. And eventually, I got a lot better. And by the end, I was writing great. I was doing most of my own stuff. The ghostwriters really didn't need to do much. So it was a great opportunity. I wouldn't have written 2 books if I hadn't done all that writing for the paper. So when I moved to Melbourne, obviously got the Herald Sun You know, I probably, that's what cost me really a couple of All-Australians, you know, talking about the AFL, they're a bit sensitive. So, you know,
Yeah.
there was rumours that I deserved to get in but didn't get in because I'd said something that they didn't like about something. So, but that's what happens, you know. I can't really...
So did you do any training for it, or was it kind of just like, hey, this guy's probably got a good opinion and good insight, and they just want to hear it?
No training, just go and do it. Queensland's pretty relaxed. So the radio I'd done before, I like radio. The TV is a bit...
well, you got to do your hair when you go to TV.
You got to look good, but TV's like a lot of time. You got to stop, you got to redo stuff, you know. So anytime you do an ad, or it just takes time. But you know, the columns would take me probably an hour a week. I'd just punch them out and send them off, and I never found them hard after a few weeks. And then the radios, you don't even have to prepare. And then TV, we're talking about footy. Yeah, it's easy.
Yep.
Yeah. So I loved it. And got paid to do it, and it was good for the club. I said, well, you know, you can't pay me what I deserve, so let me do this stuff, and
you can make your money.
And I can get more money, and everyone's happy. And so, you know, they were happy with that, and I think it worked well for everyone. Obviously, there came a time when it didn't work well because we started losing, and of course, as people do, they don't want to see that they might be the problem. You know, someone else is the problem, maybe me, maybe someone else. So let's try and get them to change what they do. Not, you know, everything was fine when we were winning, but as soon as we started losing, all of a sudden everyone's got a problem. So yeah, that was interesting, but that's people for you. You know?
So are you still involved in any of that kind of stuff? And do you reckon you would be if things didn't turn out the way it did, like with Bulldogs?
Yeah, I think the end of the Bulldogs really hurt me. Hurt my brain. If I had retired in 2009, leading goal kicker, I think it would have been different. Probably could have gone and had my choice of many more jobs, but I still did a lot of work when I retired too. I, you know, had a lot of radio stuff and still did my columns for many years. But eventually, you know, as happens, people change and they say, "Oh, we're going to go this way." And I don't know. Just after 1 year, I just found myself out of going from radio to TV. Radio, TV, and columns, and then they all just stopped. So.
So what did you do next for finances? Like you said, you know, as a player you can set yourself up. Was it like an immediate need for a job, or was it like I'll kind of play it by ear? And
yeah, it was pretty much. I was working for a company here. I was never getting paid for the company, but it was a which is still here, which is still why we're here. But it's just money transfer. So we were sort of working with them, trying to build the business, and then they asked me if I'd coach the team which his son played for, which was North Albury, which were last. And I always got taught if you want to learn to coach someone, coach a team is bad.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good league. So, you know, we ended up after about 6 months of travelling up and back, the wife said that's enough. So we want to move up there.
So commuting from Melbourne?
Yeah. So as soon as the game started, Megan said no more. So we kind of just put the house in the market, sold that. Megan's closed up her business, and we just left and came up here, and that's how we got here, really. So for us, you know, the price of houses here versus the price of houses in Melbourne, like it's not even close. Plus, I had a house provided by work, so it was, you know, it was pretty easy. There wasn't no need to work too much. So eventually, Megan started working as she did in speech therapy when she came back. So, you know, it hasn't been really too difficult to move here and live here. It's never. I've just sort of got by just doing a little bit of work here and there, lots of speaking, a little bit of corporate stuff.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah,
I played a lot of footy.
Yeah,
but really, I played up here and got okay paid.
Well, we saw one of your marks on YouTube where you.
Yeah.
After you retired,
that
Michael Jordan would have been jealous of the hang time on that one.
Yeah, I just got a good ride. That was. I reckon that was at not Sale, maybe Sale. It's at. Where was it? Morwell, that's it. Morwell. Yeah, that was a good
it was a good grab, yeah.
Good mark.
I tend to, once I find something I like, I'll watch it a few times. And that one I think I watched a fair few times.
Yeah, the ball just came out perfect. I was in a good spot and jumped on him, and then he kind of just held me up too,
And then you kind of landed on your head as well when you flipped down.
Yeah, I was trying to get off, but he had my legs, so it didn't make it very comfortable.
Oh, it made for a good video though.
But it was... Yeah, it was good.
I'm surprised someone was filming it. to be honest. Like,
Yeah. I don't know if they film all the games, just having the...
it was someone's phone, I think, back in the day.
No, I think they actually did it for the league. I think the league did it, and it was actually them that posted that.
Right, okay.
That's how I got it.
Nice. Do they film it for coaching purposes or just for the sake of you having a record as players? Or?
No, yeah, I think the players can look at the game. They do it up here. They record all the games. A guy goes out and they just record it. There's no one's talking or anything like that. And teams can access it. Both coaches can access it, and you can watch the game and get whatever you need out of it. So.
Yeah, right. So was there any more highlights from you that we haven't seen?
No, I played lots of footy. I played some good footy as well. I think I kicked a couple of good goals, but nothing like the AFL. They're not all recorded, and some places were not great. We'd lose. Some games were great. We'd win. They'll always make you feel better once you win a game. You're there to help them. And I played a game last year where the team hadn't won for 51 games or something, 50 games. So just down here in North Wank, so that was good. That was for the footy show.
Yeah, all right.
So, things like that. First game I played after I retired was in Tasmania for a side called Glenorchy, and that's still the games record for crowd within that league, so 9,600. So things like that. They actually made 120 grand on the day. So
how's that happen?
Well,
they wanted to all come and see a handstand.
Grog and sausage sizzle and raffles and all kinds of stuff. They made a gate takings.
Yeah, okay.
They made a lot of money.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's the most money they've ever made.
Yeah.
And because of that, those clubs have gone on to have success because they can then
afford
attract more players.
So, going a bit of a side tangent from that, was coaching always an aspiration for you? Like, even as a young player, were you thinking, well, one day I'll coach, or?
Yeah, I thought I'd be a good coach because I see things a bit differently. Plus, I understand that being different is not the end of the world. So I think I was all right with individuals. Plus, I never knew how I'd go with the game, but once I got in the box on game day, I was surprised how much I could see and know. But it was difficult to be on the ground and coach. Once I got off the ground, eventually after a few years, and I played all the home games and eventually coached away games from the box, I think I got even better quicker. But
did you enjoy being a player coach more?
No, I enjoyed just coaching. I didn't enjoy playing.
Do you reckon it was like more responsibility or expectation? Like, you can't criticise me if you're not, doing this yourself. That kind of. Yeah,
that does make it harder because you're saying to the guys, come on, you need to play at this standard. And I was getting, by then I was into the mid to late 30s, so it wasn't that easy to play that well, and it was becoming a bit of a pain, really. I was in a lot of pain. You're getting paid for it, which was good. But in the end, it was far more enjoyable to coach without that pressure of playing, because it's just, I'd go home and I could,
We went bruised up and everything as well.
Yeah, I'd wake up the next day feeling good, and it was.
So what do you like about coaching then? Like, is it the thrill of seeing someone else succeed, or like? What kind of motivates you to want to coach? Yeah,
I don't know. It's all those things. You do get a buzz out of seeing guys improve and see your work and them playing good. That's about it, really. And winning's good, but it doesn't last very long. It's not the same as winning as a player. Winning as a player is so much better than winning as a coach. You don't really have that same rush that you have when you play, and you can hold that for weeks when you play. But when you coach, you just sort of on to the next week. But I enjoy the tactics. I enjoyed, beating a team by implementing things that will work.
Yeah.
And I could move players around and see immediate success. And I knew if that guy went there, he played better, and all those things. They take understanding of your team and groups, and that is challenging. It's a worthwhile challenge.
So what sort of coach do you reckon you are?
We're pretty good defensively. I always like a team that can tackle and put pressure on. If I could actually access more talent, I had some talent. I had some years where I had a good group, and then we got the third. And if you had that group every year, you'd be very competitive. But it just shows you, doesn't matter how good I am. In the end, that's what stopped. I mean, I didn't have great teams coming in the last couple of years. I wasn't able to keep the players I wanted, and it was not much fun. It was going to be just a waste of time. So, the type of coach I can certainly I can get average players to play better. I can get good players to reach their potential. But if I had the type of team that some other teams would have, I would have won it quite easily.
Yeah, okay. So when you say like your defensive minded coach and all that sort of stuff, what about you as a person? What's your relationship like? Are you because I suppose like Lee Matthews is the sort of bloke where everyone recognises him as player of the century, so everyone kind of gets that confidence from him. I assume local players will get the same from you, but is it kind of like, I know what's best, follow me, or is it like, what do you guys reckon? Like, what's your kind of approach when you're teaching blokes what to do?
Well, they've got to trust that I know what we're doing. I don't think too many would argue with my game knowledge, and I was pretty thorough. I was thorough on giving them feedback on. And
in the middle of the training, like throw, stop, whistle, feedback?
That and the review of the games. No one reviews the games like I did. I was pretty thorough and could show I did all the numbers, kicks, marks, handballs, I did all that with Megan. It's a big job, and I think they appreciate it. But, it's hard when you're giving feedback, because a lot of it, when you look at a game, and you're trying to grow a team that isn't quite winning, it can look negative. And that was really probably the biggest feedback, and it's hard to be super positive when they're not bloody listening and they're not following what you want. And you know that if you help them by doing the right thing, it'll be all right. But I think in the end, you just got to have a balance. I could have just left it, probably could have left a bunch of things and not be said and just keep it all positive. But, that doesn't work all the time either.
So if someone came to you from the AFL and was like, hey, do you want to be on a coaching panel, would you do it? I'm not asking for a headline here. I'm just asking.
No, probably not now. No, I don't. It'd have to be a good opportunity, and you got to move back to the cities. There's lots of jobs in Melbourne. Going to Brisbane, there's probably only other way you could get into footy is probably through the NEFL.
Yep.
The local leagues probably don't have any money, but they don't have. There's not a lot of great standard, but the NEFL's pretty good. I could see, they always go through coaches every few years. I'm sure once I move back to Brisbane, there'll be opportunities. But, if push comes to shove and it's the right thing, I'm sure I'll do it. But if not, I'll never be upset if I never coach again.
So it's not your passion or anything anymore?
Well, it was, but, it was disappointing. I got a degree up there from the University of Queensland in sports coaching. So,
Yeah.
I think I know what I'm doing, but coaching is a lot of time. It's a lot of time away from your family as well. It's a lot of nights, and you're generally thinking about coaching a lot. So it's a pretty big job. Even when you do it part time, you're always thinking about it. Where you're going to play blokes, what you're going to do to win this week. So and with golf, I've got really good at golf, and went to Q school. So golf I try and think about golf.
So what do you do with golf right now?
Well, I just play all the time and try and get better, really. Today wasn't a great day, but I've been playing all right. I just got to keep...
My best game's the one where the beers are afterwards.
Yeah, everyone likes to play. I don't drink anymore, but, I like golf because it's such a challenge. It's so hard. But, I played a lot of good shots today, and hopefully by the time I go back to Q school at the end of the year, I'll be better for my experience last year. I still mightn't get in, but some guys take years to get in, but I know where I need to be. And
so what are you trying to actually achieve out of your golf?
Well, if you get it, you get on a tour, you get your card and you can go play professionally, which...
So you want to play professionally?
Yeah, if I could do that, it'd be pretty good. Even though it's a lot of time away. I mean, I wouldn't do it forever, but, just to say I did it would be good.
Yeah, righto.
And it'd be cool to be 90. So, I was a professional golfer as well. There's not a lot of, there's pretty much no one who's played Aussie rules footy that's done what I've done, go into a sport like golf. There's a lot of good golfers that play Aussie rules footy, but...
Well, here Brendan Goddard or something like that. He's pretty good, hey?
Yeah, he's good. I didn't play with him, but he was playing in the game. I was playing behind me. He plays great golf. So I said to him, why don't you give it a go? And he's got 2 young kids and he didn't really want to, but...
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a hard game. If you get through, that's half the battle. But most of the guys that I played against are coming back from being pro, trying to get their card again. Like, it's pretty brutal. But that's a game. If you love it like I do, you take the bad days and just keep moving on. It's a real.
Are you a club thrower or are you a...
No, not anymore. I broke too many clubs, so I had to get. I've got enough good clubs now, but I don't want to waste my money.
Yeah, no, good. So footy aside, all that sort of stuff aside, where did your lovely wife come on the scene?
99, but we'd known each other, but 99 was really a good year. Early 99 was a pretty big year because we started to really see each other, and then eventually, I think in 99, she moved in with me by the end of 99.
Yeah.
In 97, my mum had passed away, so I was able to live in mum's house for a few years. And then she came in. My brother, eventually I got him to move out because he was a pain in the bum. And then, so 99, and then I met her in 98, and then...
When you met her, was it like ring-a-ding-ding, look at that thing, or what was it?
No, she would say, it was love at first sight for her, but I'd come off a bad relationship, so I was...
Yeah, okay.
I was not interested, but anyway, we always got on great, so that's pretty much the key though, our friendship's very strong. So many months later, she rang me up to get some information about getting a boat licence because I had my boat licence, and then I said, oh look, I wouldn't mind seeing you a bit more, and she was a bit reluctant, but eventually we got there, so it took a few weeks actually. She eventually...
Bit standoffish?
Yeah, and then on the 21st of March it was, in 1999, she said, okay. And then we've been together ever since. So,
So when did you say, will you marry?
2000, I think. I just come back. I was sick in Ireland. We're playing against Ireland, and because I was in my bed for, all day, I thought up this idea. So, and I thought how I'd do it, and I thought how I could get away with it. So we did, and I got the radio station to ring up and pretend that she'd won a competition, and
nice.
And then she had to go down to a park where I was, which was across from where we met, underneath the Story Bridge, and she had to pick up this parcel. So she did, and I had the camera, so I recorded it all. And then she opened it up, and it's just got, will you marry me? And then she said yes, and that was that. But it was good to get away with it. It's good that she sort of, until the end, she didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, sweet.
So that was pretty cool. I teed up with a boss, and it was like, I need the afternoon off, and she was like, okay. So anyway, it was good.
Perfect.
And that worked out. So anyway, we got married. It's a big year, 2001, because I won the Brownlow. Then we won our first flag, and then we got married a couple of weeks after on the 12th of October, which was a Friday. So yeah, I mean that was 17.
Good thing it wasn't a draw or something then, eh?
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't have mattered because it was 2 or 3 weeks after, but
yeah,
it was and her birthday's sort of like always at the end, like it's in October, so
it's just a
when
busy
we won
period.
the flag, yeah, it was bloody horrible.
Yeah, okay.
Horrible, bloody no time to bloody buy a present, I think. So we didn't have all that online stuff you can just buy and send it on, but yeah, it was good. It was good. It was a good period, and then we didn't have Charlotte, who's. Are you going to go get Charlotte, sweetie?
Yeah, definitely.
She's at gymnastics, the eldest one. We didn't have Charlotte in 2005, and then moved to Melbourne, have Sienna, and then this one came along last year. So, yes, it's good. It's good. It worked out all right. 3 girls though, But up till recently, the girls didn't play Aussie rules really, and there was no league. There was leagues, but not like there is now. And,
do they enjoy it?
well, Charlotte's just played a full year this year. She played 1 game last year and just loved it. I think she barreled someone over and hurt him, and she said, "This is really great, Dad." And then she went and played for a local side here, and she's probably 5 or 6 games in and improving every week. But she'll get in the Lions Academy in a few years, even though when we go back up there, we'll talk to the coach, Craig Stasevich, and he's going to tell her what's going on with the future, because they're moving out to Springfield out in Brisbane's west.
Yeah, right.
So that's going to be good for them. By the time Charlotte gets there, that'll be open and they'll be using that. So yeah, I think Charlotte feels a bit of pressure, but she doesn't need to. She can just be as good as she wants to be. I think once she gets in a better system and a bit more as she keeps maturing. She's very quick and very agile, and she kicks pretty good. But with a bit more practice, I think she can really kick a lot better and play a lot better.
Do you think the female footy, like AFLW, is working?
Well, it's only early days. It's pretty crap at the moment, but it'll improve. By the time all these 11, 12, 13-year-olds are 24, which is another 10 years, because the leagues.
Well, they build it from the top down rather than from the bottom up.
Yeah. There's so many teams. It's ridiculous. There's some ridiculous amount just in Geelong, for instance. I've got friends down there, Nigel Lappin's girls. He's got 4 girls, and it's just incredible. So you can see that it will become a very, very good league. You'll see girls who can kick 50 metres and
they just need the time to have the good coaching in that.
Just need that time in the saddle. So another 10 years, people will go, how good is this game?
Because some of the chicks go pretty hard at it. Like
they go
hard
very
knocks.
Hard. Yeah, they're very hard. They're not really built for it, but Charlotte, thankfully, she's very solid. She's solid everywhere. She's going to enjoy. She likes hurting people. So
yeah,
she'll
right.
be right.
Would drop the shoulder like a bit of a rugby league tackle or something.
She makes good tackles and she can bump people and she's pretty selfless. So I think she likes us real so far.
Yeah, that's cool. So with the footy now, with like a bit of hindsight, you've been obviously a successful player, done your coaching, now teaching your kids and they're growing up. What are the things now you reckon that, obviously fundamentals is like skills and all that, what are the fundamentals though, like of becoming a good player? And I know that's a broad question, but I'll have some narrowing down questions if you...
Oh, yeah, no, footy, the hardest thing in footy is the kick. The thing I find, which was frustrating when I started coaching, I'm at the senior level and it's pretty much too late. A couple of guys were able to get to change, took a whole pre-season to change their hand position and they all became better kicks. With Charlotte and Sienna, they get the hand position right. As they progress through and put more time into it, I'd like them to kick both feet. They can, but they need to do it more. But if he can kick, that's the first thing. And pretty much, I go to places all over the country and I teach kids how to kick, and literally every coach I see, the reason he can't teach kicking is because he can't kick. And that's the biggest thing. That's what you need to concentrate on. Handballing is easy to learn. It's not that hard. Marking, yeah, there's a bit of technique work in marking, body stuff. But the general play of football is just go and play, and you'll get to read the play, and Yeah. So with footy, I think teaching them to tackle, like Charlotte can tackle. She's done a lot of gymnastics, so she's got good awareness. Played basketball, like all those games do. Basketball's probably the only other game that complements footy, and if you can do athletics, learn to run and learn to run fast. That helps. You can never teach
the hard balls versus the loose ball.
Yeah, the hard balls versus loose balls. You got to get in there and win those, and then get out of trouble. I think with Charlotte, like with guys or girls that are quick, you can always make them run better endurance-wise, but you never make endurance runners run quicker. You can make them run more efficiently, but that's just genetics. So. If you're quick, keep being quick and work on that, and you can work on your endurance later. I would run to school in my school shoes, so I knew that I had to get my endurance up, and even though I was naturally just a very quick player, and it worked over the years, got really good at endurance. Yeah,
right. Do you reckon that things in like your upbringing, so do you think farming side of families are more likely to, they're always outdoors, those kind of things, especially in the modern day and age where, kids' entertainment these days is pretty much indoors. Not all, but, a lot of kids are in front of screens. Do you think that there's anything that kind of gives a kid a better chance at doing it?
Yeah, kids are funny. Like, people go, oh...
Well, they either like it or they don't.
Yeah. Well, if your kid by himself is outside... kicking balls like I was, or just naturally wanting to play, then that's what you need. If they don't do that, parents are like, some parents are trying to push their kids, and if they don't want to do it, they're just not going to do it. They're not going to enjoy it. So, but if you draft kids, the city kids and the country kids are nearly always better kids. They're better, they're more respectful, they seem to be more relaxed. The city kids are... they feel entitled, a lot of the kids, right. And they've usually been very good and come through very, very prestigious kind of pathways, Victorian kids especially, from Melbourne. So, they're usually the kids that are like up themselves a bit and I think they're pretty good. But, the game always sorts them out. The country kids, I think nearly every star comes from the country, from Wayne Carey to Lee Matthews. They're all from the country, Gary Ablett, myself, you start in the country, so very few are from the city, but you do get kids from the city, but most of them not, because you got time and fields everywhere, and it doesn't cost that much. And
you don't have to keep your ball in your own backyard.
You have all that. So I think, kids, you just got to want to do it. Like, it's pretty much that. All the kids that make it, there's only a few I've seen that don't have a natural love for footy. That don't make it. There's probably a couple I can think of, but most of them they just eat and breathe footy.
So it just comes down from that passion. That's just they see it, they love it, and they just want to crave it.
It's more just purpose. Because they love the game, they enjoy it, and then they enjoy the things that other kids don't. When I was a kid,
hard work's all of a sudden perceived as less hard work for them because it's
that's
not.
Right.
Yeah.
When it rained in Brisbane, it was generally warm, but I was the first kid out there with a ball, kicking goals, down at the local rugby league field. And, that's the difference because, I wanted to be out there, and because I was like that, when I grew up and played the AFL, I was the best player in the wet. Everyone could see it. I got that many Brownlow votes in the wet, dominated in the wet. If it wasn't for that groin injury in 2002, I would have dominated the grand final. I was spewing. But that's just what you have to do. And if you don't have that from, all the stars, Ronaldo or Federer or Jordan, like, you look at their childhood, that's what they're doing. They love it. They love it. Jordan, his mum was worried because he was the laziest one of the kids. Yet you got him on a basketball court and he'd work all day.
Yeah.
So you find their passion and work just comes.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So was there any rivalries or any sort of or inside the club, outside, like opposition that you just kind of crave, whereas like when you're matching up on someone, you're like, oh, I'm coming up against this bloke, set yourself up for it, or anything like that you can share?
Yeah, I think certain teams I always played well against, usually defenders that are a little bit loose. Fremantle or North Melbourne and Collingwood were like that for years until they tried to tag me. And, I had a few battles with a few taggers, but most of them, you eventually get on top of and beat them. The odd guy gives you a bit of grief, but like Stephen Baker and guys like that, I always sort of, easily, comfortably towed him up. But then eventually, he just started to punch me in the back play and really dirty stuff. And he just overstepped the mark by that far. It wasn't funny.
Yeah.
So he only started doing that right at the end. But, as I remind all taggers, I said, if you're a good player like me, you wouldn't be tagging. Players that aren't that good, who can run okay, that's the blokes who will tag me. So, take it or leave
you only
it.
get put on as a tagger if you can't do much with the ball.
That's right. So blokes need to,
But like a lot of your teammates would have got tagged as well. So how did people, do you reckon, matching up against the Lions think, oh, who are we picking on to this time,
Yeah, it's funny. Like, if one of us will get loose, and if it wasn't Vossi or Nigel, Blackie or Nigel would get loose and I'd get loose. I think Sydney Swans had one player for each of us that would go anywhere, and eventually we worked out how to beat them because they went everywhere with us. We just got our next group to go in there and dominate because we had that many midfielders, and that really that basically disrupted their game plan of trying to shut down us four.
You just moved down the way.
We just moved in a different direction or went off the back flank or went and tagged someone else.
Yeah.
There goes the game plan.
Yeah.
So it's not really too difficult. But, we had lots of battles. I mean, in that era at Port Adelaide, we had great battles against them, Sydney Swans, with Magpies. The Pies were very good. We weren't really at West Coast. West Coast were all right, though.
Yeah.
But they came a little bit later.
A few years over.
2005 and 2006. So, we had some good running battles.
Yeah.
But all with the top teams. Really, you didn't really care about anyone else because they're not really good
you're not going to worry, yeah. And how did you get up for a game? Like, were you rev yourself up, or were you just like, I'll just rock up, do my job, or, what was your kind of mentality going into a game?
Night games were good in Brisbane. I'd go down with my brother, have a kick in the morning, have some lunch, have a big snooze, have just a little bit of look at the footy. But, that's over years of practice. I know what to do. Some years I wasn't going very well or mentally too worked up. But eventually you just get used to relaxing, not really worrying about it. You know what's going to happen. You know who you're up against. You probably know your opposition. The opposition player will be on you. So you generally, and in my prime, like I dominate games. You'd come in after the game and me going to go, how'd you go? I said, oh look, I really dominated here. I did this well. I made a couple of errors here, but most of the time you really are affecting the game. So I didn't, in that period, it's a pretty good feeling. So you're not overconfident. You just know you're going to play well, or you just hope you don't get injured, but you don't really think about that either. You just generally just rock up and say, okay, give us your best and good luck.
So another thing I've been wondering is like the way the game's kind of changed in terms of rules. Are there anything that's kind of, if you were playing in the modern game, you'd think would be, obviously you'd find a way to adapt and beat it, but like one thing I think especially is like that centre circle now when they bowl it up. Back in the day, especially with someone like Clark Keaton, he could just knock it anywhere and you had all the space to move.
That's right.
And you could hit it at pace. Is there anything else that you think, if, like in the modern game, it kind of restricts players like you?
No, I think the game would suit me because the more, even when they push up, I could easily hang back and just get the ball on the fly or be, as long as I was one out, no problem. But I think now with the 6-6-6, like I would have had even more room in the midfield and more room in the forward line. It could have come out, like we would even be more dominant. That would really help us. So, if you had a good ruckman, you can see the good ruckman, they win the tap. Usually it's to their guy and they're already inside their forward 50. So I think we would have benefited. We had great forwards, but, when I played forward as well, we had a super forward line. So we would have just even maximised that even more. Often we were playing against teams with one or two people behind the ball, so it was easy enough to score, but it was generally a bit harder when blokes are in your way when that's not usual.
And so is there anything about the modern games performance from players that really annoys you? Because for example, you look at the marking contest now, if Tony Lockett played today, he would have kicked 10,000 goals. Anything else where you just look back and you just think, man, in my day, players were just better at that, or that didn't happen?
Yeah, I think the game was you could dive on the ball and you could take blokes out. And, if you were desperate at the ball, you got rewarded. That was one of our key things, you had to be lower and harder. If you went lower and harder now, it's a free kick. So that's a bit of
But the sliding in rule was a bit annoying.
Sliding in, that wasn't around. So
it's always now, it's just like if you're second to the contest, you're rewarded.
Yeah.
I don't understand that rule.
Our first two things were harder and lower and tackle and dump. You can't do any of them now. So you can tackle, but you try and dump them, and if you hit them, they get hit the head, that's a free kick, or you could get suspended. So,
because when I was brought up, it was like if you're a split second late for the tackle, still knock the bloke over and make him know that you're around. But now it's downfield free kick or whatever, just for a bump.
You could, when players would try and handball over the top, you take them out. You bump them out of the way, or you hit them pretty hard, or you grab them, and you can't really do that. So, but you work around the rules, I suppose. You bend the rules. You get away with it some days you don't. Just depends on the umpire and what they see. But I think the game, good players play well and would have played well in all the eras. Would have helped some more than others. Yeah, would have. But didn't matter. Tony Lockett was still great. Still kicked a bunch of goals.
Still remembered.
He still could kick 11 in a game. Like just super player.
Yeah.
So, the good players are always good. It wouldn't matter where they are. They're always good.
No, that's it. Well, look, I'm pretty much out of questions unless you've got anything else you want to add.
No. You've done a good job. You've lasted this long.
No, thank you. Much appreciated. Finally, a big thanks to Aker for his time. I got a lot out of chatting to him, and as you could probably tell, I was pretty nervous going into that conversation. Aker was one of my idols growing up, but he set me at ease as we kept chatting about footy. Keep posted for the next episode, guys. It's with Ian Perrie, a former player for Adelaide Crows, who I'm fortunate enough to get to play alongside in AFL 9. So, and he's got a really cool insight into his career as well. Stay tuned for next week, guys. Thank you.